welcome back to the Colour Cave, where we like to play with art stuff. It's Jem here, and this is going to be one of two kind of like breather videos for our colouring chat before we start on completing another page in the next book that I have selected. I really wanted to jump back into Intricate Ink today by Tim Jeffs. I really enjoyed the last one I did, which was the owl that we coloured in, and I'll leave a link to that in the end card, but I'll also leave it down in the description if you want to check it out at some point. I just really enjoy Tim's artwork, and I've selected our little giraffe friend here to work on today, and it's really nice to have that ability to complete a colouring page quickly, especially when we've been working on something as epic as Dromenvanger, which has gone on for 10 installments, so it's been going on for months and months. So I decided on this because this kind of leads in to the next picture that we're going to tackle in a series, so that's giving you a little clue. I'm also going back to my old faithfuls today. I have my Polychromos pencils here. These are my favourite colouring pencils, and I really want to try and make a good job of this little dude. I haven't quite decided if it is a dude yet, but maybe we can figure that out together. You guys seem to be really good at offering up suggestions for names, and I'm always open to that. One of the things that struck me about this picture, and I find it quite strange, is that there was something kind of freaking me out about it, and I've figured out what it is. Giraffes have very, very dark eyes, and obviously because this is a grayscale image, the iris is really, really pale, and it just kind of, it makes it look not quite right. Now obviously that's done intentionally so that we can colour it in and decide what colour it's going to be, and I wondered what it would look like if we had a giraffe with like maybe dark green eyes instead of brown. I thought that might be a little bit of fun. So there's not going to be a lot of colour choices going on here. Obviously giraffes are a certain shade. Now there's nothing to say we can't have a purple giraffe, but in the interests of being in keeping with the artwork itself, which is obviously verging towards realistic, we want to pick out some more realistic colours. So I'm going to be using a lot of the sort of earth tones in the Polychromos set, and that's, I've got the my pencil case open here, and these are the pencils that I use most out of the entire set. So I really just wanted to start with some of this face. And having looked at lots and lots of different pictures of giraffes, it seems that not only is this pattern very unique, which I knew anyway, it's a bit like a fingerprint, you know, of ours, and makes that animal unique and gives them their identity. But also where the colour placement is, there's a lot of sort of yellowish browns, and it just depends on the animal how much of that spreads to what part of their faces and their necks, which I think is just absolutely lovely. So what I want to do is just start with a really, really light layer of Naples yellow, and this is going to be for the sort of paler parts. The other pencil that I want to select as well is cream. And one of the sort of recurring trends with these is round this sort of, what I can only describe it as the area under the eye, so maybe like the cheekbone, this seems to be quite pale across a lot of the giraffes that I looked at. So that is where I'm going to start. And again, Mr. Jeffs has left us some really nice hatching to guide us, and that's one of the things I absolutely love about grayscale images to colour, because the indicators and the guidance is all there for you, and it really doesn't take an awful lot of effort or thinking in order to decide where you want to place your colours. So that's where I'm going to start, and I'm just going to put in a little bit of this and just sort of map this out in my brain, where I want the lighter shades and where I want the darker shades. And we'll just start getting this down. So I'm just adding a little bit in round the nostrils here, and also the ears seems to be another area where the giraffes can be quite pale, so we'll pop some of that down there too. So as I said, I'm looking to do another sort of breather video, if you like, before we start on another series, and I don't have anything planned for it, so if you have any suggestions or if there's anything in particular that you would like to see me colour, please leave me a little comment down in the box underneath, and I will take some of your suggestions, and we can maybe pick out something. If, you know, if there's a particular thing you want to see me colour, like leaves or a face or something like that, just let me know. We don't have to do a full colouring page, but I'm perfectly open to suggestions for anything that you would like to see. And we can just have a bit of fun before we start off on our next big project. When you put your first sort of layers of pencil down, it doesn't really look like much, but that will improve as we start to build up our colours in our different pencils. So I'm switching to burnt ochre now, and these are going to be like our sort of mid-tone sections. So again, I'm just choosing where I want these to go, and these initial layers I'm just popping down so that I've got an idea in my head of where I'm going with patterns and colours. I have to say, super cute. Super, super cute. So let's put some of this lighter shade down here. Can start blending this into these darker areas now. You'll notice as well that I'm holding my pencil really, really far back, and that's just to make sure that I am keeping this light layer. I'm almost like forcing my hand into this light pressure, and that's great when you're doing these initial sort of mapping out stages, and that lets us build up plenty of layers and really sort of deepen down the colour as we go. I particularly like the Polychromos pencils in this colouring book. I have to say it's one of the ones that I seem to be able to work quite well with it. So I'm going to grab yellow ochre as well and maybe pop this in round just where these little dots are, and then we can maybe start to blend these in here as well. Now I know this isn't everybody's way of working, and everyone has different methods and, you know, different things that work for them in terms of just getting things straight in their mind. But this way seems to work really well for me. I'll get some of that down like this. Okay, so I think that's enough to be getting on with, is just this section here, and I want to work away at this and really sort of build it up. So I'm going back to my cream pencil now, and I'm going to focus on these lightest areas. Now Mr. Jeffs has put in the texture, so we don't need to worry about it too much in terms of what we're doing with our pencils, and that means we can really concentrate. That's my little Jack Russell, she's just woken up. We can really concentrate here on blending our colours together and having some nice sort of interesting colour transitions. So back to my naples here, and this part under the eye, I really want to sort of accentuate that. I can just jump back here to the cream pencil, and I can maybe add in a little bit more here as well. And this is the really lovely thing, and I just love this about this book. I feel no pressure on me at all to get this 100% right. It's just a case of going with the flow and seeing what works, and then you can add in your colours as you go. Now I have a feeling under the eye here this might kind of sort of turn into a bit of a brownier area, so I'm just going back with the pencils I'm using. I'm not doing anything different here, because that's like a crease under there, so we kind of want to accentuate that. And their eyelid areas seem to be very, very dark, so if we're going to make this a dark brown, I don't want to go in with a dark brown just under that eye area, because then it's just going to kind of like merge into it. And then I'm going to carry on down this hatched area with this burnt ochre. Yeah, burnt ochre. And that's just really to give it more of an accent. Speaking of accents, I've had quite a few people mention in the comments again how much they like to listen to me, and you know, just talking, which I think is really, really funny. It's really nice in a way, but you know, it's kind of a standing joke now, isn't it, that I spend all this time and effort working really hard to try and make my art better so that you guys can learn along with me, and the thing that takes me no effort, which is just opening my mouth and speaking, that seems to be the selling point for the channel. So yeah, weirdly, like, that's like a bit of a cack-handed compliment. Okay, I'm going to move down towards the muzzle now, and let's try and get some of this kind of like deeper colour in where we're going to start into this darker area. Now at no point am I pressing hard with my pencil, because you just don't need to do it. You really, really don't. And I think generally across the board, I mean, it does depend on what paper you're working on, but generally building up layers is going to give you a much nicer result than if you just went in really heavy-handed and started mashing away at the paper. Let's give him a little paler lip here. And then this under section here, I can start to make this a little bit darker. So to build on the burnt ochre, there's two colours I want to use. I want to go to the terracotta, because that's going to give us some nice rich colour. But I also want to go to a darker brown as well. And one of my favourite pencils to use in this set, and I blend it with a lot of things, is Bistre. It's a really good neutral colour, and you can do a lot with it when you're layering up without it being too dark. So again, kind of like I did round the eye there, I just want to pop that in underneath, and then I can go back to my burnt ochre. And then we'll go back to the yellow ochre. So yeah, I've been kind of toying with the idea in my head, thinking about all my colouring books, and I think I mentioned this recently actually, that when I was taking all the photographs to go on the website, it kind of inspired me to go back to a lot of the colouring books that I haven't visited in a while, but the problem is there's a lot of them. So I'm not at sea with what I want to colour, but one of the books I really want to go back to and do a bit more in is Ivy and the Inky Butterfly by Johanna Basford. However, I am kind of Johanna Basforded out at the moment because I'm still chipping away with Enchanted Forest, and I'm determined that I'm finishing that this year. So I've kind of almost given myself the rule that I'm not allowed to colour anything else by Johanna Basford until I've finished Enchanted Forest. But I think maybe after Christmas I might go back to that sort of side of things, go back and visit the Johanna and see if I can't do a little bit more maybe in Ivy and Inky or something like that. So I don't know if that's something that you would be interested in seeing. If so, you can let me know. You know, you guys will always take on board what your opinions and your preferences are. I can't always promise that I can please everyone because that's very difficult now, but we can always try. I'm quite enjoying this more sort of orangey reddish tone. I think it's actually quite nice. I quite like it. I do want to add in a little bit more of this ochre colour, this burnt ochre around here though, and maybe just a smidge of the yellow. Now again, a step darker. If I just show you my my swatch book here, so here's Bistre. The Van Dyke Brown is a bit severe, and I do want to keep to that kind of like warmer feel. So I think I'm actually going to go to Burnt Sienna instead. Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh yeah, we're looking good. Okay, so you can see some of the colours kind of starting to take shape now. So I'm going back to my burnt ochre, and this middle section right up to their horns seems to be darker under normal circumstances anyway. So I want to start working on that now. So we'll build this up a little bit. Now because I've got a little layer of cream on this part here, it is going to make this look lighter as I layer up the pencils because obviously we've put that down first. But we can still layer our darker pencils over it and it will be in keeping with the rest of this part of the head, but it just won't be as sort of deep. And then we can join this up here as well. Now we're back to this kind of like speckly area here. Now I want this transition from this dark area to this light area to be quite smooth. So it's quite important here that I do sort of blend the pencils so that it doesn't look too patchy. And, you know, as if it's just like been cut off and it's gone straight from one to the other. I don't want to go too far into this cream part though, because I really do want that as a highlight. And there we go, I'm a bit happier with that. And now I'm going to take my burnt sienna and I'm going to start working this into these areas on the top part of this lovely long nose we've got here. And I'm going to pop a little bit here. This is really more to indicate that in the darkest parts here they are dark brown rather than the black of the ink. I'll just take my time layering this up, building it up. So this is the terracotta. You see that's starting to pop out quite nicely, and we do have a sort of marked colour difference between here and down here now. This is what I was saying earlier about just taking our time and letting the layers do the work. And again, back in these darker areas where Tim has left all of his ink lines in, I'm just going to go over those with a tickle of some of these darker browns so that we are showing that they are in fact brown and not just black. Yeah, he's looking alright so far. I can hear a cow mooing in the field. We've got a lazy cow just now, and I don't mean that as an insult. She is very, very lazy. She has a calf, and the calf's still quite small. And what happens is the calf lies down to go for a wee snooze, and Mum is munching away beside the calf. And as she grazes, she wanders further and further away from the calf. And then she gets to a point where she realises that the calf's miles away from her. Now, rather than getting a move on and going getting it, she just stands and moos at it until it wakes up and, you know, panics and starts to run towards her. And there's a couple of times where we've actually gone down to the field and like shushed her in the direction of her calf, you know, like it's over there. And she like sort of frantically runs towards it for about 3 paces and then just stops and stands and moos again. So we've given up with her, we just let her moo. And that's exactly what she's doing just now. She's quite far away though, thankfully you won't be able to hear her on the audio here. Especially after me taking so much time and effort to fix the audio. So yeah, but she's quite amusing though. Once we realised that she wasn't actually in distress, because it's a very specific moo, then we just kind of let her get on with her. We're like, nah, not running about after you. Oh my goodness, the trials and tribulations of having cows. I found a new cow as well. When I say a new cow, I mean a cow that was here when we came to the farm, and I think I'm going to be able to make friends with her. Her ear tag number is 100, like that's her management tag. And she seems to be quite friendly, and we were told by the previous owner that she is quite friendly, but obviously because we're strangers she's not been overly keen on coming to see us, but she's been quite inquisitive even with a calf. So when she comes into the shed in the winter time, it's my mission to make friends with her because I'm really missing Agnes, and I like having a friend in the shed. It's nice. Okay, I think I'm going to have a little pale bit in here, because this, again, Tim hasn't left a lot of hatching here, so that's kind of indicating to me that that might be a paler colour. And once again, we just have to blend it and make sure we've got this nice transition into this much, much darker section. So we're just going to take a little part at a time here, a teeny weeny wee bit at a time. And where we've got these spots, I think I'm going to do very similar the way I've done under the eye. So I'm going to pop those in. One of my sort of housekeeping tasks that I'm going to have to do for the cave over the next week or so is I am going to have to take my laptop to pieces, and I'm going to have to clean out the cooling fans because they're starting to rattle, and my old laptop did this. And it's basically just a lot of dust and stuff that's stuck in them. And I mean, the laptop's not overheating or anything, it's just very, very noisy. And bearing in mind it is still quite a new laptop, we really don't want that or need that at this juncture. So I'm not really looking forward to taking it to pieces. But Mr. Jem likes to do things like that. He loves to take things to bits. And under normal circumstances, I kind of trust him with things like that because he's very good with mechanical things. And he's very good at taking things apart, but I'm just a little bit more precious because it's my laptop, you know. It's not an old knackered piece of machinery outside or anything. So I don't know how I'm feeling about that. I might just do it myself. Maybe we could have a team effort, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he would help me. Oh, I had to stop there to take a delivery and it's kind of knocked me off my stride a wee bit. You guys won't notice with the power of editing, but I've kind of lost the thread of what I was talking about and what I was actually doing here, which isn't great. So yeah, I know I was working on this part up here, but just having stepped away for a minute and come back, I've realised that I really want to come down here now and just sort of work in this sort of flow, this direction. So that is exactly what we're going to do. So I've got my darkest yellow here. Now this is the yellow ochre, the light yellow ochre. I'm just going to pop quite a lot of this down in here. And again, there's quite a distinct line here. So we're going to work on that and build up some pencil there. But I just want to get this down first in this little section. And I think we'll stop it there for now. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this sort of neutral brown, this bistre. And just pop a wee sliver of that in there. That's going to look okay. So for the actual spots or plates or whatever you want to call them, they are more or less black in this drawing. But like I was talking about earlier, we want to give that idea that they look dark because of the light rather than because they're black. So I'm going to put the terracotta down on the lighter hatched areas on these spots first, and then I'm going to go in with my darkest brown. So if you remember, that was the burnt sienna, and just pop a little bit down there. So what we're doing is we're giving that suggestion that these spots are actually brown and not black. There we go, that's pretty good. So there's a little patch here, and then these ones here too. There we go, that's looking all right, isn't it? Don't know why I'm asking you guys, it's not like I'm going to get a quick answer. Right, so I'm going to go back to this cream pencil now, and you'll notice that I haven't sharpened it. And that's really because I want to keep this as smooth as possible. So I'm just going to work my way around these plate areas down here now. And again, just from observation, I noticed that with quite a lot of the giraffe pictures that I've looked at, the area in between these spots or plates seems to be quite pale on a lot of occasions. So I want to try and work some of that in. And I need to try and be as accurate as possible so that it doesn't look patchy and kind of like unfinished. There we go. So now down underneath here there is a little bit of hatching, so I can go back to my darker yellows now. And especially on this bottom area, because it is underneath, I'm thinking to myself that that's going to be a little bit darker. And this is obviously like part of his jawline here. Her jawline, I don't know. Whatever you think. So we just want to make that quite subtle, but still have that indication that that's curving down underneath. There we go. And then I can go back to my cream here. And I'm trying to avoid these black areas because this cream pencil does show up on top of the black. And we don't want that causing us any sort of issues. So again, I'm just going to do these plates while we're here. There we go. So this area around the eyelid now and where it joins in here, it looks like a combination of the darker colours and the lighter colours. And again, Tim has been kind enough to leave us some lines. So I'm just going to start to sort of put them in, because we want our giraffe to have a little bit of character. So we'll give him some of these cute little wrinkles that they've got going on. And again, I'm just using his hatching as an indicator. If I just zoom in a wee bit, then you can see in the kind of darker areas, I'm going to go for the brown here. And then in the lighter areas, I'm going to go back into this sort of pale yellow and cream combination. So I'll pop that in between. And again, we can work away at building that up a little bit as time goes on. But for now, we just really want to get that down so that we know where we're going with what pencils. And this is so much fun, because we're kind of getting to put our own creative slant on things without it being, oh, you're doing this right, you're doing this wrong. And I know that that's one of the joys of colouring at the best of times. You know, it's very sort of liberating because you can more or less do what you want. But I also like, especially with animals, I like to have that sort of guidance that you know roughly what colour things should be, so that you can sort of, so that you have a direction for your colouring basically, and it's not going to be too much brain work on your part to figure out what's going on. And that's the main reason that I colour. It's a really nice halfway house between not doing anything at all and, you know, some sort of epic art piece. And I've said this before because it is really what I use colouring for. Because people often say to me, why would you colour in someone else's art when you can do your own? And sometimes, truthfully, I don't have the inclination to, or I'm just really tired, or perhaps don't have a lot of time in my hands. And I would rather make a good job of something like this and enjoy it than make a sort of half-hearted bad job of, you know, a kind of like half an artwork of my own. And I do encourage artists, because I just felt for a long time that colouring was beneath a lot of artists because they had that sort of attitude. And I'm really glad to see that that's changed a lot, especially in the last few years. And there are more artists exploring colouring. And sometimes it is just to hone their pencil skills, and other times it's, you know, more for reasons that I have for colouring, which is really nice, and it's quite refreshing to see that sort of shift in attitude. So I'm thinking that under this eye here, we want this to be quite dark in here again, and I'm just trying to join this up again. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we want a really nice chocolate colour around his eye, verging into quite a dark brown. So I'm going to use walnut brown. In fact, I'm going to use Van Dyke brown because it's a bit warmer than walnut. And this is going to be for his little eyelids here. Now, I might pop in a little highlight with a white gel pen when we're finished, because obviously that's a sort of mucous membrane type area, and it might just have a little glisten on it. On the go. Oh, there we go. Oh, what a handsome little fellow. I think this looks like it's quite a young giraffe. Now, I might just be clutching at straws there, but yeah, I've got the feeling that this is a youngster. So we're on to this horn area now, and again, some of them have got kind of like dapples and all sorts of things going on, but I want to keep this very similar to this little hump here. And so it's back to terracotta here. Again, just very lightly to begin with, not putting a lot of pressure on this. just see how we go. Oh, here's my cow mooing again. You might hear that. That was quite loud. She must be near the window of the cave. We do, when you look out the window of the cave, which is in that direction, I look out onto a part of our garden, and beyond that is the field that is closest to the house, and it kind of wraps round the side. So there's a lot of occasions where we do have animals very, very close, and they lean over the fence and try and eat our grass and things like that. So it's nice to have them that close, because I can keep an eye on them, you see, as well. If Mr. Jem and the boys are elsewhere or they've got other jobs to do, especially just now, we're coming into harvest time, I'm in just an extra pair of eyes. So I'm kind of working at being a farmer, but not really. Okay, so there we go. We've got that little layer of terracotta down. And as I said before, yeah, we're back to burnt sienna. But we're going to be a little bit more sparing with this. And we just want these in this sort of darker hatched area. We can graduate it out into this lighter part. So Jock's not doing too well. I think the last time I spoke about him, I was telling you about the injection that he's had. He's due to go back for another one just shortly. And he started behaving really oddly the other night, and he was chattering his teeth. And quite often that's a nervous thing, but it's something that Jock's never done. And I just thought it was really strange that he's starting to do it now. And I thought maybe it's a side effect of the injection starting to wear off. But he was kind enough, he is quite a gentle soul. He let me have a poke about in his mouth, because I noticed that when he was eating, it was awkward for him. And it turns out that he's got something wrong with one of his back teeth. And I don't know whether it's wobbly and it needs to come out, or whether he has just, injured it or something. But his mouth isn't looking too good. So we're booked in to go back for his injection next week. And this is the end of the week when I'm filming this. So we've just got the weekend to wait. And we're going to get the vet to have a wee look at him when he's in. He's still managing to eat, and it's not put him off, but I say it looks really awkward and almost slightly painful when he's doing it. So it'll be interesting to see what the vet finds. The nice thing is that Jock is very biddable, and he's bothered about people poking about in his mouth, but he'll let you do it kind of thing. It's not too much of a hardship. So there goes another expensive vet bill. Jock has become a very expensive dog in his middle age. Yeah, but we'll get him sorted. It'll be okay. Pip, on the other hand, she's just diddling about doing her thing. She's obviously being a young dog. We don't have to tend to her as much with things like that. But I genuinely thought that we would have to spend more time looking after Woo, because Woo's now 15 and a half. She's not a young dog anymore. And aside from the sort of the expected ailments that come with age, she's actually doing okay. Aside from the fact that when we leave the yard now, I literally can't leave her just to wander about. I have to have her on a lead, because she can't see very well and she can't hear me either. And for a Jack Russell, she is quite an obedient dog. If you call her, she will come to you, but the problem now is she can't hear you. And unless you use really big overblown sort of physical gestures like doggy sign language, she can't really see you either. So it's just to keep her safe. But see, other than that, she's actually doing really, really well. I'm surprised she's still going as strong as she is. We are now walking her every second day. She's not fit enough to go out and walk every day. But what happens is, because it is every second day, she's very fresh and ready to go. And she runs about with the collies and chases the tennis ball when she can see it. So she's actually quite a happy wee camper, which is really nice to see. And it's lovely to see her running about in the field with the big dogs without a care in the world. She's still got that sort of puppy streak about her when she wants to play, which is just lovely. And I'm really enjoying watching her, because I know that she is old, and some days she has good days and some days she has bad days. And when you see her on her good days, when she's absolutely full of beans, it's just lovely to watch. It really is. Okay, I think we're doing all right here. I do feel that this area in here is too pale now though, so I'm going to take I'm back to the Naples yellow and the cream. And I just want to try and build that up a little bit, because it's just kind of like paled into nothing because these are quite dark. So I'll just add a little bit of that in there. And I'm going to bring some of this brown round and join this up with the horns, this area here. I'm going to bring this all the way over. And I think I'll add in a little bit of this terracotta as well. So I need to kind of transition from this horn into this paler area. So I'm back with this Bistro, which is, again, it's just a really good all-rounder pencil for stuff like this. So I can bring some of this down, and then I can use the cream and just join these areas up. I'm going to have to sharpen this a little bit now because these areas are getting quite fiddly, and as I said, the cream pencil does show over the top of the black, and that's what I don't want. I've got my trusty Tegal here. Oh, went over the black bit there, oh no. I love the wrinkles round the ear. This is like one of the best parts of this drawing, if you ask me. That's funny. And then I can go back to my yellowish colours again because I want to follow this right round here. Again, in under this ear part's probably going to be quite a bit darker. I actually quite like the fact that this bit's pale. I might just leave that like that. I can always go back later and add in a little bit more to make it darker if that, you know, if I feel it looks a bit odd. But I think for the time being I'll just leave it as it is because I kind of like it the way it is. He's starting to get a little bit of life about him now, is this little guy. Okay, so I want to tackle the eye now, just because we've kind of finished this first head part. And yeah, I want to go for like a hazily greeny into brown, and I know that's not what giraffe eyeballs look like, but I'm just taking a bit of artistic license here. So the colour I want to start with is olive green yellowish. I'm actually thinking about making this eye a similar shade to my own eyes. My eyes aren't quite brown, but they're not green either. I'm more of like a hazily eyeball, and that's thanks to my mother diluting my dad's lovely Italian chocolate brown genes. Thanks, Mum. But we'll start with that and see how we go. Because I just feel if we make them really dark brown, it's going to lose a lot of the character and we're going to lose a lot of the shading as well. So there we go. That's actually okay. That doesn't look too weird initially, but we are going to have to go into brown. So I'm going to go with burnt umber, and I'm going to use this in the darker parts around here. And I'll maybe pop a little bit in here. Just round that very edge. Because I don't want it to stick out, like I don't want it to look weird, but kind of enjoying this this idea of this little bit of green. I just want to zoom in a wee bit so that you can see that. I'll pop the autofocus on as well. There you are. So you can see there, it does look brown, but it does have that sort of greenish tint to it. There we go. How does that look? I always think that the minute you colour the eye, it instantly brings any sort of living creature to life. I absolutely love that. That's like so satisfying. I absolutely love it. Okay, now, so we've kind of got all these wrinkles to deal with. And in fact, let's start with the ear. Let's do the ear next, because I'm really not that sure about what I'm doing with that either. Their ears do seem to be really, really pale. So I'm just going to head on with my cream pencil here. Bring it on down all the way across this ear and on this inside part as well. And I think we'll need to give him a little bit of an accent of a different colour here. Maybe just on this inside section. There we are. So that's given us a little bit of definition and just a wee bit of variation there in that ear instead of just having it all that really pale cream colour. And I think we'll maybe do the same just along, again, where Mr. Jeffs has left us some hatching, which is very considerate of. I'll just put a tiny light bit of this down. I don't want it to be really in your face. But if I just put a light layer of that down in these hatched areas and then go back over it, like all of it with the cream pencil, that's going to blend it out a little bit. But it's enough to have, you know, some sort of shading in there almost. There we go. That's cool. I don't know what I'm going to do about this hump at the back. I don't know what to do with that. I think this might be part of his mane, and I really want to have this red colour, this terracotta colour, so I'm just going to go for it. Pop that down there, and that's going to be down here. And I'm just going to bring this all the way down. Zoom out so that you can see. I'm not terribly happy with his sort of stripes on his eyes here. I think they're too stark. So I'm just going to do a bit of cross hatching here with this terracotta pencil while I've got it. Just to try and kind of blend that out almost. I just love these neck wrinkles. They're so cute. They're so adorable. Ah! Right, okay, so let's let's work away on this lower neck section. So there's nothing different here. I'm just going to get a little layer of this cream down first. And obviously in these heavily hatched areas, that's going to be a fair bit darker, one would imagine. Oh, they're so lovely. And then I'm just going to work away with my yellows here. And we'll sort of go with the lines that are already there. That kind of makes sense. And I'm not being too careful here because again, this is a really wrinkly area and there's quite a lot going on there. So, you know, the chances of it all being perfectly blended and all the rest of it's pretty slim. Pretty slim, to be honest. We'll bring this up under the ear here. So I want this to be quite dark under here. And again, it's just to sort of differentiate the area that is actually the ear compared to what is underneath the ear. It maybe doesn't make perfect sense in terms of having a light source, but it's going to look okay. Right, so while we move on to this section of the neck, I want to do all his splotches first. So I'm just going to get going with this terracotta pencil. I do find it better to work in sections sometimes, and this is one of those occasions. When I'm drawing, I do tend to move around the picture, but that's just so that I can keep looking and changing things if I need to. Got this burnt sienna here now as well, so I'm just going to start adding that in. Again, very, very lightly. I don't want to be pressing too hard because it's going to be really obvious where I've put the pencil down and which parts are just the print of the paper. So we want that to look kind of as organic as possible, where possible. So again, let's see if I had £1 for every time I said just use a light pressure. I think I say it all the time, but it really is the key to good colouring because it lets you change your mind, and if you're anything like me, you change your mind a lot when you're doing stuff like this. But it's so nice to have that freedom because you've left yourself that leeway. Oh my, we are looking like a handsome giraffe now. I don't know what it is about this picture, but I think because I think this is a young giraffe and he's obviously you know, got a bit about him. This really reminds me of my neighbour's horse. She has a young horse called Joey, and you can just tell that he's a cheeky chappy. And he's full of personality, and I've got the feeling that this little guy is as well. Okay, those patches are looking pretty good, so I'll switch back to these sort of in-between parts again. I'll maybe zoom out a wee bit as well. And I'll just get in here with my cream pencil again. We'll get that going first, and then we can go from there. And we'll stop there, that's as good a place as any. And we've got this really dark area in here. And I feel like that's just a follow-on from these sort of neck crinkles, so I'm going to go along the same lines as I was before with this dark part here. We'll get in some of this darker yellow. And it's funny because when you're doing a grayscale piece like this, by adding in your darker colours, all you're really doing is just enhancing what the artist's already put in. And I've shown this before, but if you just block colour grayscale pieces, they still turn out really, really well. So you've nothing to worry about. Absolutely zero. But just by adding a couple of extra licks of a slightly darker pencil, it can really bring a lot out in the image, and you don't even realise you've done it, which is really nice. Okay dokie, so we're going to move down his neck a little bit, so I'm just carrying on here, I'm not doing anything different. And seeing as I've got the cream pencil in my hand, I might as well do this part first. I'll go back to these spots now. They're not really spots when you get to this stage. Get some more of this darker brown in as well. Try not to overdo it too much. And then we just want to do the same thing again. There's more lines down this side, so we're just going to use our darker yellows now. And just work on these areas. And then I can go back to my cream pencil and I can start to blend these out a little bit. Smooth them out. And at the same time just add in another layer of this cream pencil. There we go, super duper. Okay, I'm going to do this other side now, and it's going to be exactly the same as the right hand side. I'm not going to do anything different, so I'm just going to whiz through this. I might even speed this part of the video up, and then I'll catch it up just to do his mane, and we'll be all done. Okay, that's better. I keep going back up to this ear. I'm really not happy, and I'm going to pop a tiny wee bit of terracotta in there. I just feel it looks really flat and sort of one-dimensional in places. So I'm just going to remedy that. That's one of those ones where I had like one eye up here and one eye down the bottom when I was colouring. I'm like, don't know if I like this. Okay, I've had a look at their manes as well, and they seem to be paler in at the base, and then they get darker as they come out, a bit like their horns. That seems to be like a recurring thing. So I'm just going to pop down some more of this terracotta. I think this is actually part of his head behind here. I don't think it's his mane. So I'm going to go in with some yellow here and just try and work this out a bit. I may have to erase that and start again. I'm not entirely sure yet. I might even just make this more brown than anything. It's like the start of the mane maybe. And then I can get down here and get going. And I'm just literally going to pop another layer of this terracotta down all the way across. Or all the way down, depending on what way you want to look at it. I'm thinking across, like, across the way. What do I know? I've decided I want a wee bit more yellowing up the top here, and it is horns. I actually think this colour should come down a lot further, like to here. Yeah, I feel better about that. And then I think maybe we're going to have to transition into this sort of deeper yellowy type shade as well. Yeah, a lot happier with that. Okay, yes, anyway, back to the main. back to the main, back to what we were doing. Okay, and with this burnt sienna again, I'm going to have to turn the book to do this, and I really don't like doing this, but it's just going to make it a bit easier for me. I want to have quite a sharp point on my pencil, so because I'm going to be doing some of my flicky lines, my favourite thing to do, and I'm going to flick in the way towards the centre of his body, and I'm pressing quite hard. And again, all I'm doing is just taking inspiration from the lines that are there. So Tim's original artwork lines are flicky lines, but they're coming out from the centre of the mane. But the reason I'm doing this is because I want to get that graduation from what is the darker part, which for us is on the outside here down to the middle. So when I come back in with a lighter pencil, I'm going to be able to blend out the end of these flicks so that it looks a bit more gradual. I'm just trying to figure out which way to turn this. I think I'll do it that way. That's not really working for me either. Okay. It's alright, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. This is where his neck twists in a separate direction, and I feel that Tim's drawing, not that I'm criticising, I just feel that it's a little bit off here, because where the neck twists, that should be the point where we stop seeing the side-on view and we come to the face-on view, which to me is like this part here. So that seems to be a little bit off, but he's done it very gradually because it would look a bit odd otherwise. So I'm not really sure what to do about the colouring of this now, because it's really at this point here where I want it to start tufting out in both directions, because we're looking square on at the back part of the giraffe's neck here. So I'm going to have to just try and do this really gradually and start incorporating maybe one or two hairs on this side, and then by the time we get down to this section here, that's more or less all going to be this darker colour on both sides, but I'm not really sure about that, to be honest. But we can work away at this. Do the same on this side down the bottom here. Again, just making sure that I'm keeping my pencil sharp. Okay, so on top of the terracotta up here, I'm going back in with my cream. And again, because this bottom section actually in at the neck is a lot paler, and that's just turning out exactly the way I wanted it to with the cream on top of the terracotta. That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay. In down the bottom here, I'm just going to go in with my burnt ochre over the top of what we've already done. Just get these edges as well, make sure I've got no really stark white edges. Alright guys, so that's it for today. I want to thank you very much for watching. If you've made it this far, consider hitting the thumbs up button. That would help me out a lot, and it's the internet equivalent of giving me a cuddle, and I really like cuddles. If you have any suggestions for the next colouring video, as I said, I'm open to any suggestions that you may have, so please feel free to drop them down in the comments section below as well. That'll be awesome. So until next time, stay safe, look after each other, and bye for now.